All right, my boy, you ready?
Ready?
All right. Well, welcome to the Fountain of Truth. Um, I'm Ash,
And I am CJ.
and today for our little intro brew test, we're gonna be trying O'Dell Brewing Co.'s Sippin Pretty. It's
It's
a
pretty
fruited
good.
sour. What the hell are the fruits again? Leave it up to me to be like this.
I'm tasting like pomegranate.
Pomegranate is an interesting flavor to pull. It's guava and elderberry.
That's what that is. It's fucking guava.
Guava's a strange fruit, dude.
Interesting. It's pretty good. It's not. It's for being a sour. It's a lot less sour than I was expecting.
They can be pretty sour, and this one's kind of like dry. Like
Mm.
there's a really good sour out of Kansas City. It's called the Berry Noir, and essentially, it's like a dark juicy berry, and that one's just phenomenal. This has and probably always will be one of my favorite sour beers of all time. I think they did a really good job with this one. It's got lots of like floral notes to it,
Yeah, I like it a lot.
and that elderberry that's just like a magic fruit. So I think that this one's pretty fucking solid.
For being my first sour, I'm not displeased at all. I'm pretty satisfied with this.
Yeah, and as long as you hang out with me, we'll find more sour beers. I absolutely love them.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Well, with that out of the way, you want to get to the topics we're covering today?
Yeah, so I'll be covering conspiracy theories regarding remote viewing.
Sweet. Yeah, and then after that, I'll be covering some lore about the Chupacabra and possibly the Pukwudgie as well, if I run out of things to talk about with the Chupacabra.
Sweet, sweet.
All right.
Let's go. All right.
Off to a good start.
So, have you heard of remote viewing before we like started chatting before?
Yeah, I was here during some of your note taking, but from what I understand, I've looked into astral projection, things like that, and dream walking or whatever that's called.
Yeah,
Astral
and
or
it's pretty similar. Yeah.
okay, okay. So I'm following along some of the lines, but
Yeah. So essentially, remote viewing is clairvoyance, right? Being able to see things that you're not close to, that you shouldn't really have details about in the first place. Um,
mhm.
and it ended up becoming a CIA project in the 90s. Um, Essentially, the Stargate project was a $20 million project from 1975 to 1995, with a bunch of roots coming from some notable scientists all the way in the 1930s. Um, so I know we were chatting earlier, you know about Michael Faraday.
Yeah, I've heard of the Faraday cage, but
Yeah.
don't really know who he is.
I mean, he's just an amazing physicist and chemist. He discovered the gas they use for the Bunsen burners and
Cool.
made some of the earliest forms of the Bunsen burner. He also did make the Faraday cage, which is just like being able to protect electronics and other things from penetrating frequencies and stuff. So Michael Faraday, while I was able to find no actual studies in regards to what he did to kind of lay the foundation for parapsychology, um, he was mentioned in the Stargate project. Um,
Hmm.
but he was a very very devout Christian, so he believed
Mhm.
in a lot of powers that humans can kind of hold. Um, Again, I found no actual connection for his studies and stuff,
Mhm.
but he is a notable character in along with Alfred Russell Wallace, Rufus Osgood Mason, and William Crooks, and
Okay.
it's very interesting because they were all very very religious and like allowed religion to stay within their scientific careers. Um,
Mhm.
and so like the ability for humans to reach powers and stuff was not far fetched to them.
Yeah. A lot. It's kind of interesting that they were so religious because a lot of Christians are against anything that's like hocus pocusy, like witchcraft kind of thing. They're typically super against that. But so with remote viewing, it's essentially astral projection with like extra steps.
Well, it falls more in line with like psychic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, they had in a lot of the mainstream information that's actually available on it, it doesn't seem like they want to give it a whole lot of credit. So we were watching that video towards the end of the note taking, and there's 12 million documents, and they try to say that they ended the project because it didn't show any real practical use, which just kind of seems like a whole bunch of crap to me. Um,
Okay.
so essentially, all the declassified documents are showing results ultimately was deemed unsuccessful, as according to the CIA.
Hmm.
And I'm considering it this is conspiracy theory hour. I don't fucking buy it, not in the slightest. I think that they saw a lot more potential in it than what the public was able to see, and just kind of kept it under wraps and into a new project.
Right, but with it being an intelligence operation, they don't want the whole world knowing that they're able to like view things that you're working on from across the globe.
Well, see, they stole it from Russia, though.
It was originally a Russian idea.
Yeah, let me get to that part.
Okay,
Um,
the plot thickens.
which
Leave it to the Russians.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, in 19, so we'll go through a quick like kind of progression year by year kind of deal on what the project was, because Stargate was its final name. So essentially, people were starting to found parapsychology, and I believe that was J.B. Rhine um, in the 1930s was when he started some of his research. He was born in 1895 and lived till 1980, so he lived a long life.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, he kind of focused on like the sixth sense studies, so they call that extrasensory perception or ESP.
Mm.
And he focused heavily also on psychokinesis, which is also just telekinesis.
Just
Um,
moving things with your mind.
yeah, and telepathy. So he was into what they call parapsychology, and he was kind of the
Mm.
one that founded the term and opened it up to be able to get public funding and stuff. So he kind of walked hand in hand with the human potential movement in the 60s, which was kind of what
Mm.
came out of the psychedelic era of the United States,
Right.
when the anti-war movement from the 60s was going on. Um,
The humans what movement?
the human potential movement.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's essentially like people got their hands on psychedelics and were kind of figuring out that we have a little more power, innate power within our being than the government wanted us to believe or know about.
Right, and there's still a lot of that movement going on today with people like waking up, like the awoken or whatever that are doing a lot of chakra work and meditation, things like that,
Absolutely, yeah.
trying to open up our senses to extra abilities.
Yeah, lots of people like Andrew Huberman who are interested in trying to open up psychological and clinical trials around psilocybin mushrooms,
Right.
um, and LSD, and then a lot of that being inspired by them finding things like ergot in beer and stuff from like religious sites and stuff back in the day.
Mm.
But so in 1970, the United States federal government caught wind of Soviet research into what they call psychotronics, which was basically just anything related to psychological manipulation.
Mhm.
So specifically, psychotronics is what you would hear from people who believe they're being targeted, and that government agencies can broadcast beeps and noises and voices into your brain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tinfoil hats.
yeah, basically. So that led to the Scan8 program, which is scan by coordinate. And that was just kind of a small project run, I believe, by the DIA, the Department or the Defense Intelligence Agency. In 1972, Russell Targ and Harold, how do you say
Harold and Kumar.
that? Puthoff? I don't know.
Putholf. Putholf.
Puthoff?
Putholf.
But they began the remote viewing research at Stanford Research Institute. Um, and with their project specifically, they were able to find a lost Soviet spy plane in the Congo in 1976.
Really? So it was successful.
Yeah, and a lot of the like I said, a lot of the mainstream stuff, I don't think they want people to actually know or understand that.
Mhm.
Again, there was 12 million documents released once everything kind of got declassified, and there was tons of operations that were actually very successful. So later on, Lieutenant Colonel Austin W. Kibler ultimately deemed the experiments flawed and terminated their contract. So Targ and Puthoff's government contracts were taken away, and they ended up trying to move into the public sector instead. And then, so that was in, I believe, in '75. or 76. I think it was after they found the plane, so in 76. And then in 1977, it got transferred and renamed called the Gondola Wish Project. And it was to evaluate potential adversary applications to remote viewing. And that was the quote for the CIA document that was reviewed.
Okay.
Basically trying to see if they'd be able to keep an eye on the Soviets from a distance without having to send anybody over so they can execute, operations.
So they really started putting money into this during the Cold War then?
Yeah, yeah. I know that they used it in the first Gulf War as well to be able to
Okay.
find some of the missiles and whatnot. So then in 1978, the Gondola Wish Project turns into an operational program called Grill Flame on Fort Meade in Maryland. So it then got picked up by the United States Army. It eventually got transferred over to another agency, and it was called the Center Lane Project in 1983. So they just kind of transferred it all. I think it was kind of just covering their tracks so that they weren't losing any more information to the Soviets.
Right. Rename the program, shift everything over so it looks like it's a new thing.
Get a new team, kind of like what you hear with like Bob Lazar and Area 51, how they have a revolving door of people who never actually really get to talk to each other so they can't spread more information and lose it to adversaries.
Right. Okay.
So then in 1984, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Jack Anderson, who is kind of one of the grandfathers of modern journalism, he reported on the project, causing the Army to pull its funding after heavy backlash in 1985. So he had kind of blown the top in 1984, and then the Army was just getting, public scrutiny for it, and they ended up pulling the funding for it, which caused them to go ahead and just switch over. It was redesignated to the DIA again under the name Sunstreak. And then in 1991, I couldn't find a whole lot of information on Edwin May, but he gained control of the project, and it received its final name of Stargate there.
Okay.
He had like 70% of the funding and 85% of the data, and he got to decide what happened to it. Again, I couldn't find very much information on who the hell he was. But then it was demoted from a special access program to a limited dissemination, and I looked that up. So a special access program is basically like top secret, and then limited dissemination is like minimal transparency, right? So we have this project, but here's all this information with a ton of it redacted, so just blacked out. And in 1995, the DIA was directed to hand the project over to the CIA, where then it was reevaluated for success metrics and was ultimately shut down and declassified. The results and analysis was also scrutinized for conflict of interest, as well as contradictory evaluations to articles published by the scientists reviewing the project itself. So there was a lady that was friends with Edwin May, and she had basically put out a couple articles saying that there's validity to remote viewing and everything, and then when it was her job to review the actual project, basically said, nah, it's a bunch of baloney.
Okay.
Which is part of what kind of piques my interest on the idea that they may have just like moved it instead of it actually just being shut down.
Yeah, that part sounds like a psyop, like a cover up.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems really sketchy because they did try to ask her questions and she just evaded it. Didn't give a lot of information, and then the project just disappears.
With everything being so successful and they're reporting that that it's actually working, and then this lady being all for it, and as soon as it comes time to review and analyze the data, it all comes back, oh no, it's a failure. Like, no, that's definitely a cover up of some kind. But it is definitely interesting to hear about this, man, because this is it makes me feel like the Cold War never ended. It just switched from missiles and nukes to like psychic abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So like some of the notable projects that were really successful was they were able to find a bunch of secret remote bases from the Soviet Union. They were able to make drawings of where and what it looked like, and a bunch of them were found. And then they located hostages from the Red Brigade in Italy. They also were able to locate victims of the Israeli hostage crisis.
That's also huge.
And they saw locations of Scud missiles during the first Gulf War. So they were able to actually identify where they're holding weapons that we were concerned about.
Okay.
And they also they believe that there's an ability to traverse time with shit like this. So essentially, there was a remote viewer in the program that warned about the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, and he tried to warn them, and they just ignored him.
Right.
So it still happened.
Psychics always claim that they can see the future, but in this case, with the remote viewing, they're able to like speed up or go back in time. Is what you're saying?
That's what it kind of seems like. In another one of the stories that they had was essentially they sent him to look at Mars at like 1 million BC
Hmm.
and was claiming to see architecture and being able to see beings that were kind of on their way out that he couldn't really identify. And they were basically just telling him, just give us the raw data. Don't try to look too far into it.
Hmm.
And he was describing like strange looking beings that were really tall and super skinny. They wore weird clothes. The everything was kind of red, and they were catching like geometric shapes, like architecture on Mars.
Okay, that part's a little hard to believe, um, seeing as it's like first off, being a million BC is crazy far back for a person to be able to go, but also with the details being kind of shady, it's kind of hard to add any validity to those statements. But with the rest of it being successful, it makes you wonder that like people have theorized that Mars was habitable, and there's been some evidence of an intelligent society living there. So I'm sure that some of that might have been real.
No, I'm sure. And that side tangent, the the possibility of there being life on Mars was one of the things that made me really interested in what Terrence Howard had to say. I know a lot of what a lot of his theories are like
Hmm.
easily disproven with physics and whatnot, but the idea that everything just kind of unravels in a spiral, and essentially Mars used to be in the Goldilocks zone where the Earth is right now, and everything will continue to expand outwards as the rest of the universe does. Um,
Yeah.
that the next progression would be life on Venus, not life on Mars.
Right. And if you look at I mean that really does make sense with everything like slowly moving away over billions of years. The planets will get farther and farther away and slow down and become habitable in that zone.
Yep. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting because even I don't know how much closer Mars would be to the sun right now, how close it would be to the Goldilocks zone, but at a million years ago, um, there being the end of life on Mars as it's shifting away seems kind of interesting, and I don't think that it's necessarily like an invalid experience that he saw, if that makes sense. It's just kind of questionable.
Right. Well, I mean, nothing is static in the universe, but that also raises a question for me. Like when we're observing planets in the universe that might be habitable, we're getting that data from like millions of years later because of how far away it is and how long it takes the light to travel over. So, if we're truly looking for habitable planets in the universe, we should be looking at planets that are, that have compositions of compounds that are necessary for life, but closer to the sun, not quite in the Goldilocks zone yet, because that data would be so outdated that by the time we're looking at it, it should be in the Goldilocks zone if that theory is proven.
That's a good point, and I don't know if anyone's actually ever kind of approached it from that point of view. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive on that one now, because
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. If they've looked to kind of account for the expansion, um,
Yeah.
but we do have one more notable project that happened with the Stargate. A lady named Angela Ford, who was a remote viewer for the project, was able to identify someone that was on the run from, I believe it was from the FBI or the CIA. He was a customs agent, and he was hiding out in a small town in Wyoming. And she thought that it was Lowell, Lowell. And I
Hmm.
mean, considering that it was Lovell, Lovell, is absolutely crazy. They actually found him in that small town. There
Wow.
there is no Lowell, Wyoming. But, I just being a dyslexic myself, I kind of felt for her that so close yet so far, right? But there's probably tons and tons of other really good projects that we could highlight, but those were some of the only ones I found. Again, once I started diving into it, like so many things say that it was just a bust, and there was no practical use or success in it, and that's just kind of what they've been trying to get us to believe for so long.
Right, that's the common story with a lot of these like secret programs is that, oh, it was unsuccessful, all the money was down the drain, we're just gonna scrap the project. But then you look at the audits that the Pentagon keeps failing. You got to wonder where that money's going. And a lot of these programs that had like high hopes at the time and seemed super successful, that were quote unquote shut down, like possibly they were just like made even more secretive, and the money kept going to them and it just vanished out of the Pentagon.
Oh yeah, and there's tons of projects like that. MK Ultra is one of them as well, which we will be doing an episode over, and everything to do with Charles Manson.
Sweet.
Yeah, basically it's just a mind control project that they had some leaks happen, and then they, what do they call it? Reorganized it and did all that little shuffling around crap so that it wasn't the same people. They kept some of the top scientists in on that one, but again, they just reshift it, repurpose it, and try and keep it out of the public view and just go more and more top secret.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a common thread in these conversations.
Absolutely.
One
You know.
second.
Oh damn, I'm behind.
This shit's good, man. I haven't put it down since we started.
Yeah,
I just want to take a break and talk about this stuff, man. Like my initial thought was that it tasted really floral. Like there was a lot of like it kind of tastes like they made it out of flowers, to be honest with you. And I kind of like it. Like I'm
Oh yeah. I don't know what they even used to make it. I would be really interested to see kind of the process on it, cause yeah, it tastes like all the flowers that are on the can.
Sippin' Pretty.
Yep. So it says on the side, more of a mantra than a beer. Sippin Pretty is loaded with our unique blend of guava and elderberry, then balanced with a delicate addition of Himalayan pink sea salt. This beer pops with a bright ruby color and a refreshing tart finish. And
We're
it
gonna
definitely
talk.
is tart.
We're gonna talk about Himalayan sea salt at some point.
Oh yeah.
Himalayan rock salt. Yeah, there's a theory online that like enormous titanous giants lived at some point, and as they died, their bodies turned to rock and stone. And if you look at images from those rock salt mines, it looks like you're inside a fossilized giant. Like it just looks like meat, dude.
That's wild. Well, then we'll have to tie that in with the giant tree stumps.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
That'd be
I think
cool.
those would
Maybe
be
we'll do
really
that
on
next.
par for each other.
Maybe we'll do that next then. But yeah, man, that's super interesting. Because I've always thought that, people that have like lucid dreams can kind of tell the future or gain, some kind of insight about their life or other people's lives. And this is just kind of a focused, harnessed version of that, where people are on purpose, like astral projecting or remote viewing things. And yeah, I honestly think it's really possible, especially with all of the different psychics that have come up throughout the years, and like a lot of them have been correct with their, predictions. The guy that predicted 9/11 was really interesting. Do you know anything more about that?
No, I could not find a whole lot of information on him. Again, like I didn't have enough brain power to deep dive all of the spaghetti writing in the CIA documents. So, a lot of that stuff is scanned in with handwritten notes, and I'm not able to read cursive very well.
You can't read very well anyways,
I
though.
know. But so one of the cool quotes around it that I thought was kind of interesting is it was from Rosemary Guiley, and she has an interesting career. So she's a writer on spirituality, the occult, and the paranormal.
Awesome.
She's a radio show host and a board member of the National Museum of Mysteries and Research and the Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters.
Very cool.
Yeah, wild. She was born July 8th, 1950, and she passed away July 18th, 2019. And one of her quotes regarding remote viewing is, seeing remote or hidden objects clairvoyantly with the inner eye or an alleged out-of-body travel. So it is basically in tune with the idea that it's a astral projection or clairvoyance, and that's what this whole study, like field of study, used to be called before Oh fuck, what's his name? It was the J.B. Rhine, right? He's the one that actually founded the field of study of parapsychology, which is like the extra abilities of the human mind.
Was that the Russian guy?
No, he. I believe he was American, but he was basically the founder of this whole field of study, and he's the one that walked hand in hand with the anti-war movement in the '60s. He
Okay.
he
Did we cover how the Russians started this? Did I black that out, or did we not cover that yet?
it was the where'd it go?
Because I thought it was on that same page. I saw you flip to that page, but
It's the research into psychotronics.
oh, okay, yeah, with the okay,
There wasn't a whole lot of information on what exactly they were doing, aside from like interfering with people and planting stuff in their head, if that makes sense.
okay,
That was it because it's it's all operative stuff. They were stealing information. It's espionage. So how much information we get relayed is lower.
right. And as an American, it's hard enough to dig into our own government secret projects,
Yeah,
and
let alone the Russians.
yeah, yeah, all their research is probably frozen by now.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to do a little more research on what exactly the Russians were able to find out, but they even when things become declassified, that doesn't mean that everything gets released. So I'll try to do a deeper dive, and we might be able to revisit this topic again.
Maybe when we go over MK Ultra.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Kind of just touch back on it and see if we can get some of those declassified documents gone through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man.
Yeah, I think that'll wrap up my portion of that.
Then I think it's about time we start talking about the Chupacabra.
Hell yeah.
Have you've I'm pretty sure everybody at this point has heard of the Chupacabra at least.
Yeah, I grew up in Texas, so I mean, I heard a couple stories through like the grapevine, and I did get a personal story from somebody, but that was a little strange and hard to remember because I basically had to go through a translator. My buddy's uncle was telling the story in Spanish,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
then he was telling me what he was saying. So
Yeah, this is mainly a Latin story. So it kind of I mean honestly, as cryptids go, this is more of a recent one. Not as recent as like the creepypastas that have come out in the 2000s, but the first attacks that were given to the chupacabras were in 1995 in Puerto Rico. By the end of that year, the chupacabra had been blamed for more than 1,000 deaths of various livestock animals, mainly goats and cows, I believe. Those are the two main animals that were killed.
do they go after chickens? Because I know in some of the like in the TV shows and stuff that go over these, sometimes they'll just massacre whole coops of chickens as well.
Yeah, chickens, cattle, goats, and other livestock. Heck yeah, you're finally catching up. So these mysterious killings, all of the animal deaths were resulting from blood loss through one or more puncture wounds, most oftenly 3 puncture wounds in the shape of an upside down triangle.
See, I only remember it being 2 holes, and for a long time they called it a vampire.
Yeah, it kind of falls into the vampire group of cryptids. Um, the only a lot of the details vary wildly from eyewitness to eyewitness. But they typically characterized it as having large oval red eyes that sometimes glowed, causing their victims nausea. Gray skin, a long snake-like tongue, fangs, and long spinal quills that may have doubled as wings. Some eyewitnesses say that a chupacabra swooped out of the sky or jumped over large things.
Well, I definitely remember that, and it kind of touches back to the vampire-esque stuff. How like they thought they could turn into bats, or some of the more dramatic interpretations of the vampire, like with Van Helsing, where they're winged like human bats, basically.
Yeah, yeah. The chupacabra is really weird looking. Um, People often debate on what its actual appearance looks like, but typically they say it stands between 4 and 5 feet tall, hops like a kangaroo, and leaves a foul sulfur-like stench.
I do remember that. I remember a lot of the stories being like dog shaped too.
Yeah, that's one of the most typical descriptions. It's either lizard-like or dog-like in appearance, but nobody decides on anything. But at the site of a lot of the deaths of the animals, there were unidentified three-toed tracks that were found. Zoologists could not think of any animal that fit that description.
Except maybe a giant chicken. Like, that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I feel like birds are the only ones that leave three-toed tracks. It's weird that this thing is like either a mammal or a lizard, and it's got 3 toes.
Because almost everything has like four at least, and the
Hmm.
thumb like toe or phalange, I suppose,
Yeah,
is
and
usually like lifted.
there was nothing like that. Later sightings came across Mexico and the United States, but these were usually described as hairless, dog-like creatures sucking the blood of cattle and chickens.
Like, how far through the United States? Is it just like Texas? Is it into New Mexico? Do you
Uh,
know?
Texas and Arizona is what I saw. I didn't see any other areas that were reporting as many chupacabra sightings, mainly Texas and New Mexico, like you said.
And like, do you know how far through Texas?
No, I don't. I wasn't able to find that.
Okay.
But the only reported chupacabra that was ever studied was shot and killed by animal control in Texas in 2010. After they studied the creature's body, it was determined to be a coyote-dog hybrid with mange. So a lot of these sightings are just like twisted dog creatures with infected with the mange.
I remember getting the Facebook posts and stuff on that one. It looked all fucked up, and it makes, if you've seen the picture, did you happen to see it?
The picture of the dog?
Yeah.
No, I didn't want to.
It looks lizardy. It looks like it has scales. The mange really fucks up the skin. So like
Mm-hmm.
the lizard-like sightings, I don't necessarily think are, when you're in fight or flight, freaking out because you see something you don't know anything about, you know, it gets twisted. That's why like myths were always so bombastic.
Yeah, yeah. Fear definitely clouds the mind and changes the judgment of different things for sure. What I found interesting was the spinal ridge spikes that everyone was claiming to see. When a dog is starving, their spine sticks out like it's got ridges.
And do you think that the hair on top of it could give it a spike-like look as well?
Well, if it was infected with the mange, it wouldn't have any hair. That's what's weird about it. But like almost all of the only some depictions claimed that there were leathery wings or it walked like a biped, which kind of leans more towards the idea of a vampire type creature. But typically they were on four limbs with long claws and fangs. But like the most notable thing that I found in all the descriptions were the ridge spikes on the spine.
Interesting. And it kind of gives me, like I said, the Van Helsing, but like with the dog face instead of a bat.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember those vampires. They were freaky, man.
They were. I love that movie though.
I thought those ladies were hot until they turned all crazy.
No kidding. Nice tits and stuff.
Yeah, but the only consistent description was large, usually glowing red eyes. That was the only like consistent depictor that was unanimous across the board. All of the animal deaths attributed to the chupacabra are connected to the mysterious punctures in the chest of the animal, ranging from 1 to 3 punctures, like I said, in the shape of an upside down triangle,
So is usually in the chest, like in the heart area, or are they going for another like major artery?
like straight in the heart. A lot of the animals were also missing other organs, though,
Interesting.
but there were no other lacerations or open like wounds. It was just the 3 punctures in the chest, and then somehow the liver was missing.
Well, then this sounds more like aliens.
That's been a common thing with a lot of cryptids. Actually, is people are like, oh, it's just like an alien doing some kind of weird like studies of blood or whatever.
Yeah, because they can take your appendix out with only 3 little holes.
I have not heard that.
Yeah, I have a couple friends from like Texas. But I have the line scar where they cut me open because I got my appendix out when I was like 3.5,
Mm.
and I have a line on me. But usually you'll have 2 little like puncture holes, and then the third one's in your belly button.
Weird. Maybe they were like testing their technology to experiment on humans, but they were starting with like cows and shit.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily assume that the logical progression would go to humans, because I mean we have the highest population on the Earth, and why would they not want to study the flora and fauna of the rest of the planet?
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the three punctures. At least one. There was never any lacerations or anything else. It was just puncture wounds in the chest or the neck of the animal in limited cases.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say I remember the neck mostly as well, but like which organs were typically missing?
I believe it was the liver.
See, that makes a lot of sense too, because the liver is usually really high in nutrients.
Hmm. So if this thing is like feeding off of the animals, then it would make sense that they go for the liver. Not very many other organs would really be appealing to something that needs nutrition. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass here. But yeah, the chupacabra's been around since '95 was the earliest the descriptions, and it's really big in Latin folklore. But I really think it's a combination of strange like alien like technology or experiments combined with like a ton of coyotes and dogs catching the mange at the same time.
Now I wonder if we'll ever find it, like an actual one.
I don't think so, man. I don't think this thing's real, to be honest with you.
You don't?
No, man. I guess, like I said, it's just dogs with the mange, and people
Then,
were just like freaked out about it.
but then why is it just the puncture holes, and where did the fucking blood go?
Aliens. I don't know.
I like that coping mechanism the best.
If it's unexplained, it's just aliens, man. This beer's starting to take effect. I don't know if you can tell.
I mean, what is it, like 4.5%?
Is it really that weak? Son of a bitch.
Yeah, 4.5. But I mean, you crushed that first can, dude.
This second one's half gone already.
I'm beating you on the second can then.
So, yeah, I don't like. When it comes to cryptids, I like a consistent description. That makes it feel more legitimate in my eyes.
Like Bigfoot.
Yeah, or like skinwalkers and wendigos. Well, wendigos are another topic. We'll talk about that another day. But the descriptions of a lot of these cryptids are usually the same thing. Like either it's one creature that's constantly being seen by a bunch of people, or it's a species of creatures that is being observed, like the Bigfoot.
Yeah, I don't. Aside from like Mothman, there's not usually an issue assuming it's like a species of them, because I feel like Mothman's fallen off heavy.
We will talk about Mothman.
Yeah, no, for sure. That one's very interesting. I'm really disappointed I missed out on going to the museum.
He's my hero, dude. He is my hero.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seemed like almost like an anti-hero.
Yeah, he's an omen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always shows up right before something crazy happens. Just warns everybody. Like,
Bridges falling down, Chernobyl.
witness me. Something bad follows my coming. Yeah, it's great. I love the Mothman. He's my hero.
Okay, so now what was this other one that I've never heard of that you have all these notes on?
That's right, yeah. I have a full page on these guys, and I have a little story. These are called Pukwudgie.
Pukwudgie?
The Pukwudgie.
Wudgie, okay.
The Pukwudgie.
So where does it originate from?
Massachusetts, of course.
That's such a weird... What?
Dude, it's odd how many things are in New England and Massachusetts. It's crazy.
Well, just with the name, I wouldn't have expected that. It sounds
no.
more like Eastern Asia.
No, actually, interesting guess, but this comes from a Native American tradition.
Oh, see, now that clicks heavy. There we go.
It's an ancient Wampanoag legend, and I don't know what tribe the Wampanoag are, but I'm sure they're from New England.
Probably.
Have you seen Frozen?
Yes.
The description of these things matches almost identically to the rock trolls in Frozen. Do you remember the rock trolls?
Vaguely, but go on.
So they're like short little gray-skinned humanoids that have like fuzzy backs and really hairy.
What the hell?
Yeah. They're considered magical tricksters and malevolent prankster creatures.
So like little trolls or goblins, but
Yeah.
rocks.
They're essentially trolls, yeah. Yeah, dude, I love these things. So, the legend of the Pukwudgie began in creation to one of the or connection to one of the creation myths of the Wampanoag people about a giant named Maushop, uh, believed by the Wampanoag to have created most of Cape Cod. He was beloved by the people, and the Pukwudgies were jealous of the affection that the natives had for him. So they tried to help the Wampanoag, but their efforts always backfired. Like these little guys started out as like, oh, we're gonna help you, and like hopefully the giant loves us. But their efforts always backfired until they eventually decided to just torment them instead. They're like, fuck it, we're better at messing with these people's lives, so let's just make that our hobby. They they tried really hard to be the good guys, but they failed so bad they went the other way.
What a villain origin story.
Yeah, huh? Tried really hard to help these guys. It's just always backfiring, so fuck it. So they became mischievous and aggravated the natives until they asked Granny Squanet, love that name, Granny Squanet, who was Maushop's wife, for help. Maushop collected as many as he could, and he shook them in his hand until they were confused, and he tossed them around New England.
Okay, as of right now, the granny, I can only see an old version of Squanchy from Rick and Morty.
Granny Squanch.
Yeah, that's what's in my head right now.
Granny Squanch. Yeah. Help us, Granny Squanet. But yeah, so apparently he shook them real hard and threw them like he was playing dice. Some died, but others landed, regained their minds, and made their way back to Massachusetts. The story goes on. Satisfied that Maushop has done his job and pleased his wife, Maushop went away for a while. In his absence, the Pukwudgies returned. They again changed their relationship with the Wampanoags. They were no longer just a nuisance, but began kidnapping children, burning villages, and forcing the Wampanoag deep into the woods to kill them. So Squanet again stepped in, but Maushop, being very lazy, sent his 5 sons to fix the problem instead. The story goes that the Pukwudgies lured them into deep grass and shot them dead with magic arrows. Enraged, Squanet and Maushop attacked as many as they could find and crushed them, but many escaped and scattered throughout New England once again. The Pukwudgies regrouped and tricked Maushop into the water and shot him with their arrows. Now this is where the legends kind of become muddy, because some of them say that the Pukwudgies killed him, but others claim that he just became depressed because his sons were all killed and he was defeated, so he just went away. But in either case, that's where Maushop's story ends for the Wampanoag. Yeah, Pukwudgies are cool. They're said to control Tepanwankas, which are believed to be the souls of the Native Americans they killed. And they use these souls to like create magic.
So is it basically like keeping the souls in like purgatory and using the power?
Yeah, essentially. Like they absorb them somehow or they control them. They're called Tepanwankas. But the Pukwudgies, they're described as short little gray-skinned creatures, but they're known to shapeshift into porcupines, and they're able to appear or disappear at will.
You know, I always knew that porcupines were sketchy. What the fuck?
Right?
They just look funny.
They just never sat well with me either.
No,
They're actually Pukwudgies.
they're fucking trolls.
Yeah, they're literal trolls.
That's crazy.
Team fuck porcupines.
Hashtag.
Hashtag fuck porcupines. So yeah, along with being able to shapeshift and control native spirits, when you see a Pukwudgie, you're not supposed to mess with them or try to communicate with them because they will prank the shit out of you.
I will always fall for it because every time I see a cat or something, I'm like, "What's up, buddy?"
Well, they don't appear as cats, so we're fine. We're safe.
If
So far.
if it moves, I say, "What's up?"
If it's a porcupine, I'm running.
Yeah, from here on, I'm not. Nah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
they can shoot spines. Like, I'm okay. Do they get the full powers of the porcupine when they
They shoot
transform?
poison darts, yeah.
Oh fuck no, dude.
They shoot poison darts.
No.
They were said to be once friendly to humans, but they turned on them after Mao Shop and his wife Squannet fucked with them and shook them up like dice. They didn't like that too much, so now they hate people.
I wonder if that's where the term "throwing bones" for dice in the hood came from.
No, man, it's because dice used to actually be made out of knuckle bones.
I was just being facetious.
Okay, all right. I didn't catch it. But yeah, they're still to this day known to kidnap people or lead them off cliffs or attack their victims with short knives and spears and use sand to blind people.
So they've reached the Stone Age.
Yeah, dude,
That's a
they're
problem.
evolving.
That's a problem.
And they have magic, dude. We're screwed. If they were any bigger, I'd be scared.
Well, if remote viewing is real, then we got magic too. We just gotta find it.
Yeah, I guess.
Quit leaving it up to the government to find it.
Now I have an actual eyewitness story from Massachusetts from 2023.
Whoa, that's recent.
Mm-hmm. It was 2 years ago. They're still out there, man. They're still out there. This is Mary. Was taking care of a friend's large Labrador retriever while the friend was away. The dog would wake Mary up every morning to go for a walk. So Mary would usually bring the dog to a small nearby watershed, patch of woods and swamp, for its morning preambulation. What a great word.
Can you define it?
I did not write this. I don't know what that word means. I'm going to be honest with you. Preambulation. But yeah, that dog was sophisticated, I guess. But this changed. This all happened March 1st of 2023, which is crazy because it's currently March 2nd of 2025.
Oh, so like actually almost 2 years ago on the dot.
I literally read this yesterday, like on the anniversary of this happening.
That's crazy.
But it was pitch black because it was super early in the morning, like 3 or 4 in the morning. And as they were walking on a road near the swamp area, the dog stopped in its tracks and started growling. She thought it was like a raccoon or a coyote. She was a little nervous, but she looked around to see what it was that startled the dog. It was a small humanoid creature that was covered in what looked like matted black fur. Mary thought the creature stared at her with glowing green eyes, but it was probably a hallucination, she claimed. Whatever the creature was, it was something she had never seen before, and so she and the dog ran home. A few days later, the dog went home to its owner, and Mary thought that it was over, but on the night of March 13th, she heard some unusual sounds coming from outside her house. Sounded as though something were quietly but insistently tapping on the side of her house, or possibly the window. At first, Mary thought maybe her daughter had locked herself out or something like that, but her daughter was safely inside. So Mary started thinking about the little humanoid that she saw, the little Pukwudgie that she saw. She talked to some people at work about it, and one of them suggested that it was a Pukwudgie. Because legend has it, if you encounter one and you don't treat it with respect and leave it alone, like if you run in fear, it will chase you and start pulling pranks on you.
So you have to be calm.
Yeah. The general rule of thumb with these things is just show it a mild amount of respect, kind of nod at it and just kind of keep walking or whatever, but you never follow it into the forest because it will try to lead you somewhere.
And it'll get you.
And you don't run in fear because if you piss it off, it'll just follow you around.
Yeah, I'd be hurt if people just kept running from me.
Yeah, same here. I'm just like, hey, guy, what's going on? He's like, what the fuck is that thing? I'd get mad.
I mean, I do jump every time I look in the mirror, but like, I don't know if that's related.
That's a personal problem, Doc.
Probably.
But yeah, her encounter was similar to several other well-known Pukwudgie encounters, like this one in 1990 in Raynham, Massachusetts. guy named Bill Russo was walking his dog near some woods when he saw a small, hairy humanoid. Tried to lure him into the woods. He declined the offer. He just said, "Nah, man," and kept walking. Like, "Nah, this is sketchy. You're really small," and he just kept walking. But then after encountering the Pukwudgie, started lurking around his house, and like followed him home and started throwing stuff at his house. But these like Pukwudgie chases, they only last for like a couple days, and then they fuck off back to the woods. But I think they're really cool. Little magical trolls. I'm in. You have nothing to add, bud?
I thought you were finishing a sentence.
No,
But
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's interesting because I've never heard of that. And with the name, it definitely makes sense that it's Native American.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many other weird stories and beings we've lost to the trials of time.
The Trail of Tears, you mean?
Same.
Yeah, dude. Their knowledge should not have been lost. They knew too much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that someone just terrorized them into being like the nature's version of the internet troll.
Yeah. It's actually where the term comes from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the natives were like, "Hey, these guys are like burning our villages and stuff. Can you do something?" And the giant was like, "Sure, I'll shake them up real hard and throw them over there."
I never thought that my urge to shake something that's irritating me would be in like an actual story.
It's ancient, dude.
Yeah,
It goes
this-
back to the dawn of time.
To the dawn of time. That's fucking wild.
If it makes you mad, you shake it real hard until it stops. Parenting tips 101.
Yeah, just always shake the baby.
Yeah, man.
Don't do that. Don't take any real advice from us.
PSA: do not shake your babies. But yeah, man, I love the Pukwudgie. I'm glad we got to talk about the Pukwudgie. He's really cool.
No, me too. It's interesting. It's nice to learn about a new cryptid because I've been in this fucking space for so damn long. Like my dad's been wanting to go Bigfoot hunting since I was like knee high.
Yeah, man. Bigfoot's a popular one.
Bigfoot's a popular one in Idaho too. That's the crazy part to me. I've
Mhm.
always lived in places like the Chupacabra was more realistic to people in Texas than Bigfoot was.
Which is odd because the Chupacabra's obviously fake. You do any research and you're like, nah, people made that shit up. It was dogs with the mange.
But see, the only thing that hangs me up is like, how are these things just drained of blood?
That's a tale for another day, man. We're going to talk about vampires next.
Okay, sweet. Well, so they're just like pinning it on the dogs. Vampires come through and they're like, nah, it was him.
Yeah. always pin it on the dog, man.
That's what your basic homeowner does with the dog, right? You fart, blame it on the dog.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that there's, once again, like shaking things in the dawn of time. Blame shit on the dog.
Have you seen those videos of dogs reacting to their own farts?
Yes.
Gets me every time, dude. It's so funny.
Any animal scaring itself with its own bodily function is hilarious. Like,
yeah.
the other day, we were in the bathroom getting ready to leave.
Like, did you know it was about to happen?
Yeah. But Iris, she was in the fucking cat box. Took a shit. It stuck to her butt a little bit, so she took off, frightened, terrified. Like, leaving the bathroom like a bat leaving hell.
What is it?
Yeah.
What's
She
on
just
my butt?
dropped the dingleberries and was nowhere to be found. We didn't see her for like another 10 minutes, and then she came in to like investigate, make sure that she wasn't going to get attacked by her own ass again. It was wild.
Imagine getting the shit scared out of you and then hiding from your own shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, that experience was a trip.
That's so funny.
That poor dumbass cat.
Sweet, man. Well, do you have anything more to add?
I don't know, man. I'm glad that we're doing this. I've been so bored, and I'm loving Idaho.
Yeah, man. It's a trip. I've been loving it too since I got here.
So it sounds like we're going to have to, since we're doing cryptids, we're going to have to go Bigfoot hunting and then tell people what the fuck we found.
I'm ready.
Because my dad's been waiting for that for So fucking long. Like I'd say he's been making plans on and off that have never happened for the last 20 years.
Yeah, and Bigfoot's a good one to go explore and look for because typically he's not going to fuck with you very much. He's just going to run away.
See, my dad wants to go to the hot spots
Mm-hmm.
where you will get fucked with. You go sit in the cabin they like to beat on and stuff.
Oh, sweet, yeah. Well, that sounds like fun. What's scarier than a 7 foot tall ape? You know, just running around with magic powers.
Literally fucking nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing conceivable. I would be less scared of a nuclear bomb.
yeah, yeah. Well, fun. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. We're gonna go to the middle of the mountains and then put bacon outside is his plan.
Sweet. Yeah, no, Bigfoot's a cool one because most of the time cryptids are hunting you and you don't want to look for them because they will kill you. Bigfoot's cool though.
Well, I'm hoping we can dap it up and leave alive.
Go on a mushroom trip with him. Hey, Bigfoot, I got these magic mushrooms for you.
Yeah. I think that would probably lead to the most success.
Heck yeah. Well, all right, man. This has been a fun episode.
It's been quite interesting.
This
Thank
has
you for
been-
teaching me some. I'm usually the one flapping my gums till everybody else has learned something.
Oh, yeah. We learned some interesting things about remote viewing. Yeah, that's the word.
I know, I got a good bit more information on it. I didn't realize how long the project lasted.
Mm.
I thought it was closer to like 8 to 5 years as opposed to it being a 20-year official project.
Yeah, and it's probably still going on, too.
I'm sure of it.
People are throwing stuff with their minds now. We got real-life Jedis.
That would not surprise me in the slightest. And the fact that it all kind of stemmed more from like telekinesis and stuff is wildly interesting.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can do a follow-up and get y'all a little more information on all of this stuff another day, and we can tie that in with some other crazy CIA projects that maybe you didn't know about.
Mm-hmm. And remember, if you're living in Massachusetts and you see a small gray troll-looking thing, just leave it alone.
Or a porcupine. #fuck porcupines.
Yeah, I'm done with those. Done with those things.
Yeah, after today, I don't want to even hear about them.
Never liked them anyways.
Yeah, sketchy. All right. Well, that wraps up today's episode. We don't have a schedule yet, so just keep an eye on it.
This has been the Fountain of Truth. Hope you learned something.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Yep. Goodbye.